Golbat is one of the worst fully evolved Pokemon in Generation 1. And while you might think that it's its typing that leads to tons of weaknesses throughout the game, or its middling stats in every single category, the real thing that holds this Pokemon back is its moveset. Because in Gen 1, its level up learn set is absolutely terrible. We're talking about 20 base power Leech Life. Bite at 60 base power is effectively the strongest attacking move that it learns. Wing Attack is only 35 base power in Gen 1, and while yes, Confuse Ray can be kind of decent in some spots, Supersonic is highly inaccurate, and Haze is basically useless in a challenge. And when you look at its TM learn set, it doesn't get a whole lot else that's actually that good. I mean, Mega Drain for coverage, and moves like Double Edge and Hyper Beam being effectively its strongest normal type moves. And that's really it. It doesn't get any other type coverage or any decent moves outside of ones that I would consider to be broken TMs. But what if we changed that? What if we made Golbat actually have a decent moveset in Gen 1 by updating some of these moves' powers to what they were in later generations? For starters, we would get a Leech Life that is 80 base power, more than 4x its normal strength in this generation, and giving us a neutral effective move against rock type Pokemon. And then we could update Wing Attack to be 60 base power, just like it was in Gen 2 onward, making it an actually somewhat decent same type move. Double Edge, which is effectively the strongest normal type move this Pokemon could learn, was actually buffed to 120 base power in later generations, giving us at least the possibility of getting a strong normal type move without having to go for Hyper Beam. And as many people commented when I did this run previously with a Zubat, Mega Drain in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee was actually buffed to be 75 base power, ostensibly because of the fact that there wasn't the move Giga Drain in that generation, but that's perfectly fine. If Mega Drain was buffed to the strongest power that it's ever had in the franchise, we suddenly have a decent move to use against trainers like Giovanni, Lorelei, and even Bruto's 2 Onix. But on top of that, I'm going to give this Golbat one more special move in honor of the Halloween season. I am going to backport the move Poison Fang, finally giving Golbat a same type poison move that also has the effect of badly poisoning our opponents some of the time, and in the most modern gens, that chance is actually 50%, and that could be absolutely broken. But we're going to find out if this updated moveset is enough to allow a Golbat to beat all of Pokemon Yellow on minimum battles. Place your predictions down below, but with that, let's get into this. So today, as we step outside of Pallet Town, Professor Oak's going to introduce us to a special experiment he's doing, kind of a Frankenstein's monster of a Golbat, but he has maybe made this Pokemon a little too overpowered for Kanto. We're just going to have to find out. And as our rival pushes us out of the way, he's about to learn that this is a massive mistake, because we're going to get this Golbat with some incredibly strong moves. And just like that, we have access to potentially the Pokemon Golbat. And while it has a completely bog standard starting moveset for a Golbat, that Leech Life is 4 times stronger than normal at 80 base power, making it effectively our best move in neutral situations. So with that, let's get into the Rival 1 fight and see just how strong this move actually is. We go Leech Life on the Eevee with a critical hit doing over half, so we simply 2-hit KO the rival, getting to level 6. That wasn't bad at all, but now we have to find out if we can actually manage to get through Brock on minimum battles with this setup. Keep in mind that while yes, we are using Leech Life and it will heal us in battle, we're also going up against Pokemon with really high defense stats. The one advantage that we really get in this one, on top of having the buffed moves of course, is that Golbat is a fairly fast Pokemon, so it should outspeed everything on Brock's team if I recall correctly, and that might be all that we actually need, because in theory we could go for some Screeches, we could even go for Bite to get some flinches, and we can try to use the Leech Life to heal up as we go through it. Still, I'm not honestly sure if this is going to work out or not, but I'm going to try to take it on minimum battles and just see how far I can actually get with this Pokemon. But of course, before we get there, we have one bug catcher to take on in Viridian Forest with a single Caterpie, but I think this one's going to be pretty darn easy. Here, he's at level 10, we're at level 6, but we are faster. Leech Life did pretty decent damage, 7 damage there to the Caterpie. And as we just keep using the move, we can even heal up some damage here. It looks like 3 damage per hit, so that's perfectly fine. We get through with full health. Now, just because these moves are buffed doesn't mean that this is going to be a super fast run by any means, but it might just be more consistent. I have actually managed to beat Brock on minimum battles with a Golbat before, but it requires a lot of luck with flinches from Bite and setting up Screech and not getting any misses. In this one though, we might just have a better chance. So Brocky Boy attempt number 1, he comes out with the level 10 Geodude. I'm going Leech Life, and that did 4 damage. He tackles us and does quite a bit back, but we are at least healing back some HP off of the Leech Life. Still, this is not necessarily looking like it's going to be a win, at least not immediately. Still, it might be worth using a single Screech here to effectively cut his defense in half and allow us to do more damage while healing. And if we can manage that, we might just be able to get the win on the Geodude. Sure enough, we do. We get to level 8 after that as the Onix comes out. I'm going to go Screech while it uses Bide. And then we can see that we did massive damage with the Leech Life, but I mistimed the Bide, so unfortunately he is going to knock me out after this when he unleashes energy, but actually not. We managed to survive, and it's just a 3-hit KO in order to knock out the Onix. So we get through Brock on the second attempt. Are you kidding me? One reset there to get through, but that's honestly not that bad. And it turns out that you just need to land some Screeches and you're good to go because of the extra damage that we're doing there with our Leech Life. Now, it is important to note that this is a max DVs version of this Golbat, so your mileage will definitely vary. I'm doing this to find out if it is possible to beat the game on minimum battles with this Pokemon, which is when we're talking about max DVs. I may come back and do a 0 DVs run of this one later someday, but for now, I'm just going to stick with this as we now make our way to Mount Moon, and we get to learn Supersonic here at level 10. I'm not sure how useful that move's going to be. I think what we're really banking on is the fact that Bug is super effective against Poison in Gen 1, so even without this same type attack bonus, we're just going to be doing a lot more damage here with this Leech Life. Add on the double whammy of healing up every time we use it, we're basically staying pinned at full HP as we go through these randos. Honestly, if there's any downside to this move, it's just the fact that it doesn't have a lot of PP, so we do have to go and heal up at the Pokemon Center before we can get into Mount Moon. But in here, I think we're going to have a super easy time. The Super Nerd has a couple of Poison-type Pokemon, and Jesse and James are obviously rocking Ekans and Coughing, which shouldn't be too bad, but let's find out. First up against the Super Nerd and his Grimer, we go Leech Life on it, and it's going to be a 2-hit KO, but really easy to take that Pokemon down. Voltorb, we still should just go Leech Life. It is the stronger move, and with a crit, we're just going to get another 2-hit KO as we knock that one out. We get to level 13 as the final Coughing comes out, and this is going to be another 2-hitter, and we don't even care about its Poison-type moves because we are Poison-type as well, so we easily take out the Super Nerd. We can grab the Dome Fossil, and now it's time to take on Jesse and James. They of course lead off with their Ekans. Leech Life 1-hit KOs that Pokemon as we get to level 14. Now we can Leech Life on the Meowth. It scratches, but that did nothing, and we just heal back up to full health with another Leech Life. And now the Coughing is going to be a 2-hitter, but it's really just a non-factor. We easily get through. We get to level 15 right there on Jesse and James. So up to this point, this moveset seems to be making our Golbat absolutely overpowered, but I really want to test how it does here against Misty. Her Starmie is obviously weak against Leech Life, but will that be enough to allow us to get through even under leveled? I'm going to test it out. So Misty attempt number 1 against the Staryu. I'm just going for the Leech Life. She goes Tackle, which really didn't do that much, and we just healed back to full HP. Now she X defends, but that's still a non-factor. We're going to the Starmie on full health. Now she goes Harden, which is probably a smart move, but our critical hit Leech Life did over half. Bubble Beam does massive damage, but she goes Harden after that, allowing us to get the first attempt victory as we get to level 17. So 10 minutes, 12 seconds to get through there. Really not too bad. I mean, this isn't a speed run by any means, but we are only on one reset as we get through the second gym with our Golbat, and we're ready to now make our way up north, fighting rival number 2, and then eventually we can get down to Vermilion City. Now, obviously, when we did this with Zubat, we had to take a ton of optional battles just to get to this point, so this is a massive improvement just thanks to having significantly better stats. Zubat is the weakest Pokemon in the game that can actually learn TMs, so it makes sense that we would have a huge bump in power. But now as we come up against the rival, we're going to go Bite on the Spearow. This is the first time I think Bite is the superior move, and he growls twice. That's kind of bad as we get to this Sandshrew, so I'm going to hit it with one Screech and now go into Leech Life, and this appears to be a 3-hit KO. We get Sand attacked twice here, in fact even 3 times as we just fail to hit over and over again, but eventually we do manage to get the hit and knock that one out. The Rattata, even with our lowered attack stat, is just a 2-hit KO as we get to level 18, and now against the Eevee, we might want to get this one with a Screech. He basically takes our attack stat all the way down though with Growl, but now with the Screeches set up, we are at least doing really good damage with Leech Life when we hit, but we couldn't hit enough times and he finally knocked us out. Still, this might just come down to getting slightly better luck, especially not getting Growl from that first Spearow. So let's try this one again. I'm going to Bite here. He goes Leer this time, which is much better. Now I don't think we even need to mess around with Screech. We can just go for the 3-hit KO on Sandshrew. We get through with no accuracy drops this time. Rattata is just barely not a 1-hit KO, but we knock it out the next turn as we get to level 18. And now on the Eevee, we're doing nearly half damage with Leech Life, and we knock it out the next turn. So it only takes one reset there on the rival, and it was really just because we got so many attack drops in that first attempt. With that out of the way, though, I think we're going to be pretty smooth sailing on our way up to Billy Boy's house. So let's just get through these trainers nice and quick and then check in on Bill and then just see what our local cosplayer happens to be doing for this Halloween season. And sure enough, as we make it to the final Oddish Blast, nothing up here gave us any trouble. Really, the only issue was just running out of PP and having to go back to the Pokemon Center once to heal, but that's really not that bad. We even picked up Confuse Ray in this section, so we have a better confusion move. Supersonic, of course, is just so bad because of its inaccuracy. But now let's get up to Billy Boy's house. Let's show him our special Halloween Pokemon and then see what he has in store. And after saving him from his little experiment and getting the SS ticket, he refuses to let us go and check inside of his closet to see what he was looking at there. Unfortunately, he forgot to clear his browser history. But with that being done, we will now make our way down south and let's just see how we do against Rival 3 and Lieutenant Surge. Can we actually beat Surge at our current level without having to go through to Celadon? That's what I really want to find out. But of course, before we can check on the Trash Man, we've got to come and fight our rival again. And this one I don't think will be too bad, but let's just find out how it actually goes. He leads off again with the Spearow. We're going to go for Bite on this Pokemon. It's going to be a 2-hitter. He does growl once, which is bad, but we also leveled up to level 23, which is good. Now we can easily 2-hit KO the Rattata. The Sandshrew comes out and we're at a much higher level, but this is still going to be a 3-hit KO. Still, when he even used Scratch, we only went down to 69 HP. Very nice. So we take it down nice and easy. And now on the Eevee, most of its moves are not damage dealing moves. It is sand attacking because it knows we have such a massive advantage here, but that's all right. I'm just going to go all in on attack, hoping that I can actually hit. We've run out of PP in Leech Life, so we're stuck using Bite, and he uses a potion. So I think we should confuse the Eevee so it has more of a chance to hit itself, just because we're losing so many turns here. And honestly, if we can land a single Bite, we will win, which we do. So Rival 3 goes down on the first attempt in spite of his attempts to cheese us with sand attacks. He just cannot stand up to the power of our Golbat. But now I do think we need to recover a little bit of PP before we go into Surgy Boy's gym, just because I really want to see what we actually do with the Leech Life. This might not work out if he just goes for the move Thunderbolt, but he's only 1 in 4 to use that move because he doesn't have Smart AI in Pokemon Yellow, which might just be the chance that we need. And after a small eternity digging through the Trash Man's garbage, we finally get the doors to open and we can come take on the gym leader himself. Let's see how this goes. So Surgy Boy, attempt number 1. I'm actually going to confuse him first, but he goes for Thunderbolt and just one-shots me. That's not guaranteed though, so I am going to reset here to see how it goes in a subsequent attempt. The next attempt, he goes Growl, which is kind of good given the fact that we are going for physical moves, so I'm going to Screech him once, but then he just goes for the Mega Punch, which doesn't do that much. He misses a Mega Kick, and this is just a 3-hit KO with Leech Life, so we easily win on the second attempt. 22 minutes, 14 seconds to get through Surge. We're up to 3 resets now, but really not that bad to get through this section of the game. That also gives us a badge boost in defense, and I really want that badge boost before we go through the Rock Tunnel because we are going to have to deal with the Rock Tunnel Hiker, and while Leech Life will deal neutral damage there, he could still do a lot of damage to us with the self-destructs. Fortunately, this way we will take a little less damage in that situation. But we'll just have to see how this whole section goes. It starts off with the Wrapping Glass, of course, who has 4 Grass Poison type Pokemon, which are 4 times weak to Leech Life in Gen 1. So we know these are going to be 1-hit KOs, but let's find out if everything is easy or are there any potential walls in this section. One Pokemon that would usually give a Golbat a bit of trouble is this Slowpoke right here, but with the super effective Leech Life being 4 times its normal power, it's just a 2-hit KO to get through that Pokemon, making the Pokemaniacs down here actually really easy. So still on minimum battles, we have made it to the Rock Tunnel Hiker, and let's just see how he goes. Since he is the midpoint any minimum battles run, I'm going to use Leech Life on the Geodude. A critical hit makes this a 2-hit KO on that Pokemon. Still, it's probably a 3-hitter normally, so I am going to confuse the second Geodude before going for the Leech Life. It hits itself twice, allowing me to get through nice and easy, and we will confuse the Graveler since it has higher defense and go for the same strategy of confusion and Leech Life. He goes for a couple of defense curls, which is not good for us. I'm going to use a Screech in order to lower his defense and now knock him out on the next turn. Rock Throw fortunately didn't do that much, and we even finished that fight with 69 HP. So we're doing very nice. And obviously nothing else gives us any trouble down here, so it's time to make our way out into the world. We'll go to Celadon first and take on Erica immediately, because I expect her to be an insanely easy fight. So Erica attempt number 1 here. I'm just going straight for Leech Life on Tangela. It looks like this is going to be a 3-hit KO, but it just goes Constrict turn 1 and turn 2. We got a speed drop, but that's probably not the end of the world as we get to level 28 right there. Weeping Bell is faster and drops acid, but it really doesn't matter. We just one-shot with Leech Life. Gloom comes out next, and we even outspeed getting the one-hitter. So Erica never stood a chance as we get to level 29. 30 minutes, 10 seconds to get through there. I was running around doing some of my housekeeping in between to get my flying type, etc. So really not too bad to this point in the game, considering just how bad Golbat usually is, and the fact that we're staying on minimum battles. This is actually kind of OP. And now with that done, I'm just going to get straight into the Rocket hideout. Let's just beat up on all these Team Rocket members and make our way downstairs to Jesse and James. And while I could get the move Double Edge here, I'm actually going to skip it for now because I'm not sure if I'm even going to need it. It still is a move that has recoil. And while yes, it's 120 base power, it's not necessarily going to be that strong in every situation. So I think we're just fine with Bite and Leech Life here for now. What I'm much more excited to try out later in this run is when we get access to Poison Fang and actually have a same type poison move, plus the ability to get the badly poisoned status on our opponents, basically, and just watch them melt to toxic damage at the same time. Honestly, it feels to me like that's what Koga really should have had in this generation. Anyway, we can take on Jesse and James here, where we're going to go for Leech Life and get the 1-hit KO on the first Coughing. We'll just stick with the same move on Meowth, also 1-hit KOing it. We get to level 30 as Ekans comes out and gets completely wrecked, and they were a complete non-factor. But now it's time to take on Giovanni. He does have 2 rock types. We're going to have to see how this goes. Giovanni attempt number 1, he leads off with the Onyx. I'm going to confuse it just because this Pokemon does want to use Rock Throw against me. Now we can start going for Leech Life. It's going to be a 3-hit KO and he just guard specs, so good job, Giovanni. Now we're up against the Rhyhorn, which only knows Horn Attack, so I'm going to take this opportunity to try to Screech at it to lower its defense. We're just missing every single Screech. That's like 6 Screeches in a row that have missed. Oh, but it's because of the guard spec. What the heck am I even thinking? Still, we managed to knock it out in a couple more hits. Now against the Persian, it goes Growl, but that's perfectly fine. I'm just going to Leech Life here, and it's going to be a 4-hit KO, but really no issue. In fact, the extra Growl there caused it to be a 5-hitter, but we still win nice and easily. That is the thing that I forgot, is that yes, he does use the guard specs, and usually they're a complete non-factor, but in this one, the guard spec is actually really relevant because there are a lot of spots where we normally want to go for the move Screech there, but it's not really going to work when we're up against something with a guard spec. However, I'm just going to bypass this whole idea of needing to use Screech anymore by instead adding on the move Mega Drain. It gives us a nice move for the rivals Cloisters that we're going to be dealing with in the next several battles, and it's buffed to 75 base power. So I think it's better than Screech, and then we can use Confuse Ray to confuse our opponents. I think this is the best strategy as we go forward. Let's test it out on rival number 4 here, since he has a team with a lot of different types, and maybe we can see how strong that Mega Drain really will be. First up, we've got the Fearow on his team. I'm just going for Bite on this Pokemon. It's going to be a 3-hit KO. He goes for Growl, but that's perfectly fine by me. Now he comes out with the Magnemite, and since it's not a Steel type yet, we're just going to use Leech Life to 2-hit KO that Pokemon. Shelter, we can Mega Drain and get an easy 1-hit KO. Mega Drain on the Sandshrew as well as an easy 1-hitter. And now we're going to Leech Life on this Eevee. It's going to be a 3-hit KO, but really not bad to get through the rival. And with that, we're ready to move on through the Lavender Tower. Leech Life is at least neutrally effective against the ghosts, so it might just be the move that allows us to get through pretty easily. Sure enough, we one-shot the first Ghastly that we encounter, and we one-shot the second one, so we are getting through this section just fine. Now we could learn Wing Attack, and I'm actually going to learn this move over Bite, because I don't think we're going for flinch strats here. I think we're just going for all-out power, and Wing Attack is effectively the same base power as Bite, but is also a same type move, so it's going to be stronger in most situations. And honestly, I think we're only going to learn one more move in this, which will be that Poison Fang that I programmed in. We'll learn that over Confuse Ray later on, and I think that's going to be our final strategy. And now as we come up against a real ghost in this version, Marowak, we're just going to go for the Mega Drain and get the 1-hit KO, proving how much stronger that move is, because it's not like Golbat has an amazing special stat, but it still manages to get the KO there. Now we can take on Jesse and James at the top of the tower. They lead off with Meowth. I can just go Wing Attack since it's my strongest neutral move. And now into the Leech Life on Arbok. It just barely misses getting a 1-hit KO, but we can knock it out in 2 more turns because we got a Gen 1 miss with Wing Attack. Good job. Now on the Weezing, this is going to be an easy 2-hit KO with the Leech Life, and it's not like Sludge is going to do anything, so we easily win on the first attempt as we get to level 33. Now we'll save Mr. Fuji, and we have to decide how to progress in this run. This is Pokemon Yellow, so Koga is effectively a Psychic type trainer, so I'm going to at least take one shot against the rival 5 fight first, just to see how it goes. I think Leech Life will still allow us to get through Koga without too much difficulty, but I just don't think it's going to be very consistent, so I think the rival is the better play at this point. After all, we're already faster than literally everything on his team, except maybe the Kadabra, but I think it's going to be a pretty simple fight if we get to Kadabra because we're just going to use the Leech Life there. Let's see how it actually goes. So the rival leads off with his Sand Slash, where we can go Mega Drain, and we get a critical hit 1-hit KO. Cloyster's out next. We go Mega Drain here. It does about half as we get hit by Aurora Beam, but we're just going to knock it out the next turn. We have 69 HP now as we go to Magneton. We will go for the Leech Life, doing about half with a crit, but I think we would need to confuse this Pokemon Still, he goes for a potion, allowing us to get through. Kadabra comes out and goes Psybeam though, and that is what ends us. We are 2 points in speed slower than this Pokemon. That is the reason why now I think we have to go down to Koga's gym, just because we might be able to level up down there against the randos, and that might be all that we actually need to be able to get through there. If we can just speed tie or outspeed against that Kadabra, we might just be good to go. And while I could use rare candies to try to get the ranges that I need, I really do want to save the rare candies for later on. Since we are in the medium fast level up group, we're not going to gain quite as many levels as Pokemon in the medium slow or fast level up groups on minimum battles. So we're going to need all the levels we can get when we get to the actual challenges at the end of the game. So instead, let's get into Koga's gym where there are some randos with psychic types. I think we're just going to destroy these Pokemon with Leech Life. Sure enough, it looks like at least the first of these jugglers is just going to be a bunch of one-hit KOs. But let's see how we do when we actually get to the gym leader himself. So against the first Venonat, we're going for Wing Attack since it's the strongest move and it does not one-shot. So this is going to be 2-hit KOs the whole way. We would have to confuse these Pokemon and then get the 2-hitter on them. Anything short of that and we're simply getting wrecked in this fight. Here we do manage to at least get to the third Venonat on the first attempt, but when it actually moves, we simply lose. Still, now that I at least know that, I'm going to try to confuse the first Venonat and just try to get some better luck in this one, including not getting a critical hit from that Pokemon. That, at least in theory, will help me get through with more HP, and if he X attacks, that gives us an extra turn to heal up, which is also good. We get the third Venonat to hit itself once in confusion, but then it goes for Psychic, dealing massive damage. Still, we knock it out. Now we really need him to go for an X attack on this Venomoth. Instead, he goes Psychic, and at that level of HP, at least I guarantee we're just getting wrecked. So I don't think that this one is going to be possible, at least not within reason. Still, we're very close to a level up, and we're at 82 speed right now, so the first Pokemon on the rivals team will level up our Golbat. And if we can just manage to outspeed that Kadabra, I'm pretty sure we one-hit KO there, so we might actually have a better shot of getting through Rival 5. Let's go back and test this out. So Rival 5, attempt number 2 here. Let's go for the Mega Drains on the Sandslash. We still get a one-hit KO there. Now on Cloyster, I'm just going to stick with Mega Drain, get a critical hit and one-shot that Pokemon. I'm going to confuse the Magneton, hoping it hits itself in confusion just like that. Now we can go into our Leech Lives. This looks like a 3-hit KO, but then we get paralyzed. That's like the worst case scenario for this Pokemon. Still, we do manage to get through. We get to the Kadabra. It goes for the Psybeam and knocks us out with a crit. So I think Magneton is going to be the most random of all these Pokemon, and we're just going to have to see if we can actually get the luck to get through here. It also turns out that we're not one-hit KOing anything unless we get the crits. So we really do need a little bit better luck to get this one to go. In theory, we need some turns of them actually hitting themselves in confusion. Though honestly, the Sandslash is the least threatening of these Pokemon, because even if we don't one-hit KO, it's not like it's going to do that much damage to us. This time we get a much better range on the Magneton, knocking it out, though we do have one attack drop as we go to Kadabra. We Leech Life and still one-hit KO there, however, and that brings out the final Flareon. I will confuse it once. It goes for Ember and burns me, but I'm still going for the Wing Attack. We get a nice critical hit there. It hits itself in confusion, and we knock it out on the next turn. So it's not pretty. We're up to 10 resets now, but we were able to beat the rival, and that effectively means that we can now take on Jesse and James, Giovanni, and even Sabrina before we have to go back down to Koga. Jesse and James, of course, should be an absolute joke at this point. We just go for Leech Life. It's going to be a 2-hit KO on Weezing, but it can't do anything. Arbok is more of the same. It nearly gets one-hit KO'd again. Meowth comes out. We'll just Wing Attack this Pokemon and one-hit KO it, allowing us to easily get through and get to Giovanni. And in the Giovanni fight, the Nidorino is weak to our Leech Life and just goes down in a single hit. Against the Persian, I'm going to go for the Wing Attacks. It did growl, which is pretty bad, but still we get through in 2 hits with a crit. Mega Drain destroys the Rhyhorn, and then we could really go for anything here, but Mega Drain, I mean, it is neutrally effective against the Nidoqueen, but I think Leech Life is the stronger play still. Even with the attack drop, we get a nice crit, and we just 2-hit KO that Pokemon. We're all the way up to level 38 now, as we're ready to make our way to at least try one shot against Sabrina. Now, if this were Pokemon Red and Blue, going up against Sabrina might not be the best choice, but in Pokemon Yellow, she does not have Smart AI, and that could make all of the difference here, since she's just going to attack randomly, and she's generally only going to be 1 in 4 to use a Psychic type move against us that actually deals damage. She really likes her accuracy strats in this one, so let's just see how she goes here in Pokemon Yellow. So Sabrina attempt number 1, she leads off with the Abra, which just wants to flash us, and as much as we'd like to be flashed, we're kind of happy that she missed this time, and we one-shot that Pokemon. Kadabra comes out next and goes X-Defend, which allows it to survive 1 hit. Still, we're doing more damage than it can heal with Recover, and we knock it out in 3 turns. Alakazam comes out next. She X-Defends again, which is a very smart strategy. Still, we did about half with our Leech Life, only then to get hit by Psychic and 1-hit KO'd. However, as we can see on her moveset, it's only a 1 in 4 chance that she'll actually use Psychic, which is why I think this one is worth resetting for. Next attempt, she's flashing us a lot though, so we're probably going to lose this one just because we're going to run out of PP and Leech Life. And then we get Psychicked by the Kadabra, which is already just game over. If we'd already beaten Koga, we at least would get badge boosts and speed there, but unfortunately not in this one. Still, 3rd time might be the charm as we get through the Abra with no accuracy drops. She once again is going for the defense buff on Kadabra, but we get a crit to 1-hit KO this time. Now against Alakazam, it goes Psywave. I'm going to confuse this Pokemon. Now she X-Defends, will Leech Life, and a critical hit just one-shots, allowing us to get through Sabrina in only 3 attempts. 49 minutes, 19 seconds to get here with 12 resets so far and 1 TM learned. Of course, that's Mega Drain, but honestly, really not too bad to get to this point, especially now that opponents are starting to have super effective moves against us. Still, now is the point where we either have to get through Koga or we have to start taking optional battles. If it looks really close in some spot, I might go for the rare candies, but honestly, I'm not sure we're that close to getting through. Let's test this out and see. So Koga attempt number 1, I'm going for the wing attack again on the first Venonat, and it's still not quite a 1-hit KO. Still, if we can get it to hit itself even once in confusion, that would be enough to allow us to get through. And obviously crits will 1-hit KO these Pokemon as well. Still, I think we have to go for the confusion strat here to try to get through without taking a bunch of damage. And then when we get to the final Venomoth, we're just praying that he goes for the X attack, which I think is like a 1 in 8 chance here. So it's not going to be great, but I think we're getting to the Venomoth pretty reliably here. So this is probably possible, just not going to be pretty. This time we managed to get to Venomoth on full health though. It goes Psychic, but we actually survive at this point. We did get a special drop, and unfortunately it didn't hit itself in confusion, so we lose that attempt. But that is good to know that at full health, a non-crit Psychic does not 1-hit KO Golbat. This time we get an X attack on the Venomoth, which obviously doesn't affect the ranges, but then it gets a critical hit with Psychic to one-shot us. Man, oh man, we just want to see how much damage we actually do with Leech Life there. It might be a 2-hit KO. Next attempt, we're back to Venomoth again. We confuse it. It just refuses to hit itself in confusion. A couple attempts later, he does go X attack again, but we just are not having any luck on that Venomoth hitting itself in confusion, which is a 50-50 chance. We just haven't gotten the luck a single time yet. We finally get Venomoth to actually hit itself in confusion once, and then we get a critical hit Leech Life that takes it to 1 HP remaining. If we can actually manage to land a hit, we would win, or it just hits itself in confusion. So that took 12 attempts on Koga, but we did finally win and get through at level 40. It took 58 minutes and 9 seconds, but we still are on minimum battles. 23 resets though is definitely starting to look a little sus, but we did get it to go. That's far from the worst range I've ever gotten on Koga. If people remember back when I did a Tentacruel with no TMs, that was significantly worse than this. Still, you're needing a lot of luck to get through there. specifically with either him hitting himself in confusion or using X attacks on that Venomoth. But it's nice to see that at least on max DVs, you can survive one hit at least. So it's not completely impossible, it's just not super reasonable. Still, maybe that's the only really bad spot in this entire run, so I'm just gonna stick with this and try to stay on minimum battles as much as I can. And I do want to stress just how much better this is in spite of the fact that it might look like it's kind of bad, because consider when I tried to do minimum battles previously with this Pokemon, I ended up at Rival 6 with over 1,000 resets. It was the worst run that I had ever attempted on minimum battles in the history of this channel. So the fact that we're at least making it this far in the game without having over 100 resets is a massive improvement for Golbat. However, with that being said, the real wall for that last run was Blaine, because even though you don't have a type disadvantage there, Blaine has a massive amount of power with his Pokemon in this version, and he just attacks randomly, but he's using things like Confuse Ray with the Ninetales, obviously has things like Flamethrower and Takedown that do significant damage. He can lower your attack, he can lower your defense, he can set up Reflect on his Arcanine. There are tons of ways that he can make that fight really, really tedious. So as we get into the gym, we're just going to have to see if this is possible or not. Of course, if we could learn Tombstoner, it would be 4 times super effective against all of Blaine's Pokemon in spite of the fact that they are monotypes. But in this one, our best move is going to be the wing attack. Let's see if it's enough. So I think our basic strategy here is to go for Confuse Ray on everything first, hoping they hit themselves in confusion, and then Wing Attack is not doing that much. Flamethrower did massive damage to us, and this might be over already, because honestly, if we just take like more than a couple hits, we're getting completely destroyed in this fight. Still, I think we have to at least give it a really good go before we give up. At least we're not getting one-hit KO'd by the Flamethrowers here. In fact, on the second attempt, we managed to get to the final Arcanine, but it hits a Flamethrower and knocks us out. However, if we had even one badge boost there, we would be able to outspeed the Arcanine. So I think this might be a situation where a single rare candy could help us out quite a bit. So I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to go for one rare candy here and try Blaney Boy again to try to get that badge boost that I need. There are going to be so many spots where he can go for the Tail Whip or the Growl on us to help us get to that point. So it really all comes down to Ninetales. We're hoping to get one Tail Whip there so we can outspeed the team after that. Once we get it, now Rapidash we just want to knock out as quick as possible, and we're even going to Arcanine on full health here. We confuse it turn 1, it hits itself in confusion. We get a Gen 1 miss with our wing attack, and then it hits the Fire Blast. Still we survive. It snaps out of confusion, so we're gonna have to confuse it again. It hits itself again, and we took it all the way down to low red health, but we still lost that attempt. Oh, that was brutal. If not for the Reflect, we would have won. So let's just keep trying this a few more times. This time we got a couple growls from the Rapidash, which is really not ideal, and a critical hit from the Arcanine will simply end us. So we're going to need a lot of luck to get this one to go, but I actually do think this one is possible. A few attempts later, back to the Arcanine, it sets up Reflect here, and we do have an attack drop, and then Fire Blast with a crit just ends us. Still, we have a like 17% chance to critical hit here, so even when we have attack drops, we have decent chances of doing damage to that Pokemon. It's just about how many turns it hits itself in confusion. Still, after a lot of attempts, we're not getting through. I'm going to go harder on rare candies here though, because honestly, I think within a couple levels, we'll just naturally outspeed against that Arcanine, and that might again be all that we actually need here. We get to level 43 where we normally learn Haze. We'll just skip that move for now, but we now have 117 speed, which I do think is enough to outspeed there. Add on that this is another damage rounding threshold, so we should do a little bit more damage with our attacks. I think we're starting to get pretty close to where we need to be. We're still 1 point in speed slower than the Rapidash Rapidash without a badge boost, so honestly one more level might actually do the trick. And sure enough, we will outspeed here no matter what when we get to the final Arcanine now, making this quite a bit more realistic to get through since we'll get that extra turn. Still, we're going to have to get there with a lot of HP. So I just went ahead and dropped the one more rare candy that we would need to guarantee that we now outspeed the entire team. It's still going to be incredibly luck-based to get through this one, but maybe, just maybe, it's going to be more possible now that we can actually outspeed that Rapidash, since a lot of times it was doing pretty significant damage to us. And now we don't even have to worry about trying to get one badge boost. We finally get an attempt where we're back at Arcanine on full health. It sets up Reflect here, but we have no attack drops, and we're really just hoping for crits and for it to hit itself in Confusion. We get a nice critical hit there. It hits Fire Blast, but we survive. We're on very low health, but after takedown, it simply knocks itself out. So 21 attempts to get through Blaney Boy there as we get to level 45. We had to drop 4 rare candies to make that one work, but in an hour and 14 minutes, 32 seconds, we have managed to beat Blaine on minimum battles. And now I actually think the Giovanni gym is going to be pretty easy. We're immune to the ground type moves, and we're going to have a 4-time super effective powered up Mega Drain in order to try to take down that Rhydon. So I think this one really just comes down to the 2 Nidos and whether or not they hit us with a bunch of Thunders. Honestly, I'm feeling pretty confident coming in, so let's just see if this actually works out, or is this going to be absolutely terrible. So Giovanni, attempt number 1. We're going to go for the Mega Drain on this Dugtrio. It digs, but obviously dig can't affect us, and it's just going to be a 2-hit KO no matter what we do, it looks like. So we'll just knock it out with a Wing Attack after that. Persian comes out next. Wing Attack is the best move. It goes for Screech, but that's just fine. We're still going to manage a 2-hit KO on that one as well. Nidoqueen comes out next. I'm going Leech Life since it's super effective. She misses the Thunder, but this is going to be a 3-hitter. Still, we managed to get through without any damage from that Pokemon. On the Nidoking, we actually get a Gen 1 miss with Leech Life. Then it hits Thunder and gets a critical hit to one-shot us. Let's try this one again. Now, of course, the only thing that Dugtrio can do against us is get a Sand Attack, which we get in this second attempt, and that actually could cause us to get some misses here in key spots. Yes, it is a badge boost, but it's not going to really help us that much. And Nidoqueen is just 2-hit KOing us with the Thunder there. Still, if we can get a run where we actually manage to get through to the final Rhydon, I think we win. So let's just keep trying this a few more times. Now, when we do get back to the Nidoqueen and Nidoking, we're just going to go for the Confuse Ray on them to try to get them to hit themselves in Confusion to give us that extra chance. We also like when he guard specs, since that's a turn he can't hit us. And we're actually getting through Nidoking here on the 6th attempt. Now we've gotten to Rhydon. Is Mega Drain a 1-hit KO? Sure enough, it is. And we managed to get through at level 47. An hour, 18 minutes, 50 seconds to defeat Giovanni. We're up to 48 resets in this one, but still really not bad for such a bad typing and Pokemon, given that we just have these stronger moves. And in 2 more levels, we're going to get our signature move from Gen 3. That's right, the backport of Poison Fang will be in effect. I think that's going to be super interesting to see as we go to the league. Before that, though, we've got to defeat rival number 6. Let's see if we can get through. So rival 6, attempt number 1. Of course, on the Sand Slash, I'm just going Mega Drain. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but we'll get through that Pokemon nice and easy. Execute comes out. We can go for Leech Life and just destroy that Pokemon. Cloyster's out next. We go for the Mega Drain. It's still a 2-hit KO here. That is not great to see. We're going to need some Confuse Ray luck in this one as well as we confuse the Magneton. Now we'll go into Leech Life, but it looks like this is going to be a 3-hitter on this Pokemon, and we would need more HP to get through. Still, I think the strategy here is just to use Mega Drain on the Sand Slash, since it's not going to do that much damage, and we basically have a guaranteed 1-hitter here on the Execute. But now we want to confuse the Cloyster this time, hoping that it hits itself. Sure enough, it does. We can Mega Drain, and if it just hits itself one more time, we would be able to get through that one with no damage. The Magneton fortunately is only using Thunder Shock, but unfortunately it does a lot of damage because it has really high special, so we're gonna have to keep grinding on this one a little bit. This time he potions on the Cloyster because we got him in the healing range. That does allow us to get through to the Magneton on full health. I'm still going to confuse it and now go into Leech Life. He goes Thunder Wave in order to paralyze me, and unfortunately we're just not able to move for a bunch of turns, so he still manages to knock me out even when I get that really good luck. Back to Magneton again, but this time with an attack drop. We do manage to get a crit and knock that Pokemon out though. Now we can Leech Life on Kadabra and it's a simple one-hit KO. We've made it to the final Flareon. We confuse it as it goes Fire Spin, then it hits itself in confusion. We can go for the Wing Attack, and it's not like Fire Spin's doing that much. Finally, he just goes Leer. So it took a few attempts, but we did manage to beat rival number 6. It's definitely not enough to just have these powered up moves though. You're repeatedly running into the situation where you actually need to get a lot of Confuse Ray luck there in order to get that to go. Still, we can now make it to the Pokemon League, but we're probably going to have to drop all of the rare candies here in order to get through, especially with Lorelei first up and her super effective moves. Still, we have a super effective move against every member of her team too, so this might just be a matter of getting the right luck with the Confuse Ray, and then it's just about the actual ranges that we get on each Pokemon. So honestly, I am really impressed that Golbat has managed to make it to the league on minimum battles here, but this honestly, if I'm just being real, could be the end of this run because of the fact that we're just up against so many Pokemon with super effective moves against us, and we're gonna have learned the move Poison Fang here, but I'm kind of debating which move I would actually want to forget in order to learn that move. Like, on the one hand, I could forget the move Wing Attack since it has no additional effects and basically just let Mega Drain and Leech Life be my healing moves. It especially makes sense when I think about the Exeggutor at the end. We would really prefer to have the move Leech Life, but then when we think about other situations, it might be better to have the stronger same type move. So I'm honestly not sure, but I'm going to get into the league and start off with Lorelei just to test this one out. And here against Lorelei, obviously Mega Drain is our best move against Dugong. It does about a third, and then its Aurora Beam does massive damage to us. So after that, it even gets to use Rest, which is not ideal. And we're gonna have to try to take this Pokemon down without using up all of our PP, which could be a pretty tall order. Still, we managed to get through Dugong there. We get a level up and learn Poison Fang. I'm gonna learn it over Wing Attack. I think this is the play. I think I prefer to have Leech Life and Mega Drain for specific situations coming up. Again, tell me if you think that is a mistake. Still, here we lose this first attempt, and I think we're gonna have to go for our rare candies right here. So of course, by using the first rare candy, we will get Poison Fang, and I'm going to forget Wing Attack for that. And now I'm just going all in on the rare candies to get to the highest possible level that I can, because I think I need all the levels in order to get through Lorelei. Let's test this and see how it goes at level 55. So at level 55, I'm going to confuse the Dugong. It hits itself in confusion turn 1, which is nice. And from 151 HP, when we use the Mega Drain, we did about half. She goes Rest here, which is not ideal, but we're going to be able to 3-hit KO this Pokemon, so this should be perfectly fine. Cloyster comes out next. We're going to confuse it. It hits itself once, which is nice. Mega Drain did pretty good damage, and then we should be able to knock it out with anything from there. Against the Slowbro, it's either going to use Psychic or Amnesia here. I'm just going to go Leech Life trying to deal damage. And this is going to be a 3-hit KO, so really not bad. We get to Jinx, which has low defense, so I'm just going for Leech Life here to get the one-hitter. On the Lapras, I'm going to confuse this Pokemon. It hits Blizzard and does massive damage, but now I'm also going to go for Poison Fang. I was trying to go for the chance to get the toxic level of poison, but it just didn't work out as she hit another Blizzard. Let's try this one again though. The good thing about having all these draining moves is that we will get to the final Lapras on full HP basically every time if we get here, but if it lands a single critical hit with that Blizzard, we're just dead. This time I do manage to get the Lapras badly poisoned with my Poison Fang, but but it snaps out of confusion and just hits me with a blizzard. We're going to need a very long confusion there with multiple turns of it hitting itself, I think, to get through here. And for those who are wondering just how much damage we'll do with Mega Drain here, from 220 HP, a single Mega Drain takes it down to 150. So this would be a 4-hit KO, possibly a 3-hitter depending on ranges, but we're going to need a lot of luck to get through since Blizzard is 90% accurate in Gen 1. Still, with that being known, it's probably best just to go Confuse Ray and then go into the Mega Drains there. That's probably our highest chance of actually getting through. This time we get a Blizzard miss after using the Confuse Ray. She hits herself in confusion once. This time she doesn't hit herself, but we get frozen solid by the Blizzard, and that is the end of it. If we had actually managed to be able to hit her one more time, we would have won. She could have gone for a super potion, but I'm pretty sure that just gets her in a kind of healing loop, and we would be able to knock her out the next turn. Back to Lapras again, this time with a special drop though, and that means that we're doing less damage and guaranteed to be one-hit KO'd by the Blizzard. So we can see that this one looks like it's probably possible. It's just going to be very tedious to get through. Still, I'm going to grind for the luck because of the fact that I want to beat the game on minimum battles here. And honestly, we get to that final Lapras really often in this one, just because we're always recovering HP. This time we get a critical hit on the Lapras. It hits Blizzard the next turn, but we survive, and we manage to get another crit. So after 16 attempts, we were able to beat Lorelei. It wasn't pretty by any means, but it is possible as we get to level 56, but we have burned all of the rare candies. We have no way to increase our Pokemon stats any further, so this is going to require a lot of luck to get this to actually go. Still, we've made it to Bruno. Bruno's probably just typically Bruno, so let's see how this one goes. Of course, he leads off with the Onix, which we can just Mega Drain to one-hit KO. Very nice. Out next comes the Hitmonchan. I'm going for Poison Fang. We badly poison it, and now we can just go for Mega Drain in order to recover some HP. Honestly, Mega Drain's probably just the strongest move of this entire fight, so what the heck, let's just use that to knock out Hitmonlee in 2. Onix goes down in another one-hit KO, and now we'll Poison Fang on the Machamp as we get it badly poisoned. We can Mega Drain here as he's going for X defense, but he's just not going to be able to survive with the toxic damage on. So we beat Bruno nice and easy. We're on full health as we get through it, but now it's time to take on Agatha. And honestly, this is where Leech Life has to do its thing. I'm going to put my PP ups in the Leech Life since it's our only effective move here. Let's see how this actually goes. So Agatha attempt number 1 on her Gengar. We are going for Leech Life, and that did about 40%. She goes Lick, which isn't really a big deal. We're going to be able to get a 3-hit KO on that Pokemon. Out next comes the Golbat. We don't really have anything good there, so I'm going to confuse it. I'm also going to confuse Haunter before going into Leech Life. This looks to be a 2-hit KO on this Pokemon. Very nice. Golbat, now, like I said, we don't really have anything good, so I think we have to confuse it, hoping it hits itself in confusion a few times. Leech Life is at least neutrally effective. When she swaps to Arbok, we actually get a critical hit 1-hit KO there. Back to Confuse Ray for this Golbat, though. It hits itself again, and we do manage to get the KO after it hits itself 2 times in a row. Now we're to the final Gengar. We confuse it because we are faster here. It hits itself in confusion turn 1. We Leech Life turn 2. It hits Psychic and gets a critical hit 1-hit KO. But I think this one is possible. This might just require a little bit better luck on that final Gengar. Still, knowing what we know, I'm going to go for the Confuse Rays on the Gengar here and the other ghosts, and then we'll go into the Leech Life in order to heal up off of them. If we can just manage the hits, we will be able to get through here, I think. We get Haze this time from the Golbat, which is actually kind of nice because that will allow us to get rid of the paralysis. And then we're just going to spam some Leech Lives as we try to take this one down. Sure enough, it goes down without too much issue. Now we'll Confuse Ray again on Haunter. It hits itself once. Now she swaps to Arbok, which is just going to be a simple 2-hit KO. She paralyzes us again, which isn't great, but once we land 2 Leech lives, that Pokemon is done. Now she swaps back to the final Gengar. It hits itself once, we use the Leech life. Now she tries to go Dream Eater and then Psychic. And we actually survive Psychic when we're on full HP, and we like the Dream Eater while we're awake. Now she has nothing left but this Haunter, and I'm just going to spam the Leech life here, and we actually managed the win on the second attempt against Agatha, getting to level 58. Still probably pretty lucky, and I'm not sure how we're going to do against Lance now, who's in front of us. Of course, we could go for the Poison Fang in certain spots in order to get the effect of having him have Toxic as well, but Confuse Ray is probably going to be required here on top of that. So let's just see how this actually works out. Lancey Boy, attempt number 1. He leads off with the Gyarados. I'm going to confuse it once. It hits itself in confusion, and this is the only Pokemon that Mega Drain is neutrally effective against, but man, it does laughably little damage. So instead, I'm going to go for that Toxic-based strat with the Poison Fang, and unfortunately, we're just not able to get the poison on him, and he knocks me out on the first attempt. This is the point where, in spite of the fact that we're at a really high level, we just don't have that much special, and it's actually starting to affect us here. This time we get the Gyarados badly poisoned though, as it just goes for Leer on us. And now I'm going to use the Mega Drain just to heal up a little bit of HP. We do take that Pokemon down. Now we need to Confuse Ray on this Dragonair because it knows Thunderbolt and Thunder Wave, which we don't want to see. We get Thunder Waved, and that's probably the end of this one because we're just going to take too much damage from the Thunderbolts. The next Dragonair even knows Ice Beam, which is even worse. So we're going to need a lot of luck to get through these 2 Dragonairs with any decent amount of HP. Now against Aerodactyl, if we were faster, we would be able to try at least going for the Mega Drain strat there, but unfortunately we were paralyzed, so we just never stood a chance. So Confusion is going to be really important in this one, I think, as will healing up against these Dragonairs. This time we get back to Aerodactyl and it goes Wing Attack. And remember, Wing Attack is powered up here, so it's going to do a lot more damage than it normally would as a 60 base power move. This time we get through the first Dragonair without paralysis, but we still need really good luck on the second Dragonair to get through with any decent level of HP. We're up to 95 HP now on the Aerodactyl. It hits Wing Attack. I'm going for Mega Drain just to see what the range is, but then it goes Hyper Beam and simply knocks me out. Mega Drain looks like it's going to be a 3-hit KO here. So this time instead I'm going to confuse the Aerodactyl, but it just hits me with Swift after that, knocking me out. On the 9th attempt, we actually get to Aerodactyl with decent HP though, but it immediately critical hits me with a Wing Attack, and Swift is its weakest move here. We manage a crit that does half damage at least to this Pokemon this time, and Swift is doing little enough that we might be able to survive, but he gets in a Hyper Potion range, which is also pretty terrible, and Wing Attack is just way too strong. Still, we managed to finally get through to the final Dragonite, but we have to dodge either Thunder or Blizzard. We prefer Thunder just because it could miss more often, and we don't have any great moves here, and once it hits a Thunder, that's just game over. A few attempts later, we are back to Dragonite though, only for it to hit Blizzard, and yet again, we're just not going to survive against a crit there. This time we get a Thunder Miss from the Dragonite, and I'm just going to see what the range is with our Poison Fang, since it's the only neutral move here, and that did 40 damage, but that would still make this a 5-hit KO unless we can also get the chip damage with it. It hits itself in confusion this time at least, and now it's badly poisoned and misses Blizzard. I'm going to reconfuse this Dragonite, but unfortunately it doesn't hit itself in confusion, and we go down to the Thunder. Still, we got it down below half HP, so this is definitely possible. It's just really improbable to get through this. And now after a ton of resets here, it's pretty clear we're not getting through with this strategy. However, there is a move that I do think will get us through, so let's test one more thing out. That is TM31 Mimic. Here, I'm even going to forget Poison Fang because I just don't think it's going to be useful enough as we go through the rest of this. So instead, we'll put Mimic in its place. And now let's try to get through, because if we just get to the second Dragonair without paralysis, Mimic will allow us to get Ice Beam, and that may be all we need. So without the Poison Fang, of course, we're going to have a worse range here on the Gyarados, but we do manage to take it down. Now we're just hoping not to get paralyzed by this first Dragonair. Thunderbolt's not the end of the world. We will survive a couple hits, and we can take it down after that. Now I'm going to confuse this Dragonair first, and we get frozen solid, so we have to just reset on that one. Unfortunately, if the Dragonair had a move like Flamethrower that would ever use it, we could go for the luck of trying to get Thawed out there, but it's just not going to work out in that situation. Still, it's pretty clear we can survive a couple hits from the Dragonairs, so it's not a situation where we absolutely have to get there on full health or something. Still, we're going to reset anytime we get paralyzed or frozen, since that's basically just the end of the run. And we're actually really hoping that Gyarados uses Leer on us once so that we will outspeed against the Aerodactyl. So back to the second Dragonair again. This time we can mimic the move Ice Beam. It hits us, but now we can hit it with the Ice Beam, knocking that Pokemon out. Aerodactyl comes out next, uses Hyper Beam, but we survive, and this is a 2-hit KO. He just goes for a Hyper Potion and has to recharge. And now against the final Dragonite, we Ice Beam and 1-hit KO, getting to level 59. So it took a few attempts there still after I used the Mimic, but I went ahead and went for Mimic, even though it is a broken TM by my categories, because at least it's not, Double Team or Substitute or something that's a little bit more cheesy. And we were getting pretty close to 100 resets on the fight as we were. I felt like it was just finally time to give up on the strategies that I was using. And hey, we can say that we've made it to the champion on minimum battles with a Golbat. And now I think the Mega Drain and the Leech Life are going to put in serious work. But let's just see how they actually work out here. So Golbat, attempt number 1 against the champion. We're going to go ahead and just mimic the move Earthquake here, since it's going to be really useful later on. We get slashed, but I think that's perfectly fine. I'm going to confuse the Sand Slash here and now go into the Mega Drains. We do over half with the first one. Now he goes Fury Swipes. He's just getting a lot of crits here. But we knock that Pokemon out. Alakazam is out next. We outspeed, and we just one-shot with a Leech Life. We're going to one-shot against the Exeggutor with Leech Life as well. Now against the Magneton, we can go for Earthquake, and that's not quite a one-hitter. Thunderbolt does massive damage, but we knock it out after that. We get to level 60 as we get to the Cloyster, but I think we have to confuse it. I don't think we're one-hit KOing here. We do manage to one-hit KO with a crit, though, so we get through that Pokemon. Earthquake on the Flareon is not quite a one-hitter. It's going to be a 2-hit KO. He full restores. Now he goes Reflect, though, because that's all he's going to do against a Poison-type Pokemon. Gen 1 logic for you, and that means a second Earthquake just ends it. We beat the champion on the first attempt. So in the end, it took 2 hours and 7 minutes to beat the champion on minimum battles. No optional battles in this entire run. We ended up with 101 resets, but a lot of that was just because I was grinding it out against Lance to see if I could get the luck. The strategy is obvious there, though. You go for the Mimic strat. That's the way that basically any Pokemon can get through Lance, is just with Mimic into that Ice Beam. As long as you get to the second Dragonair, that's always an available strategy. And we only had one other TM, which was the Mega Drain. So overall, not terrible. It's not a world beater by any means, but it goes from being a Pokemon that would never have even a pipe dream of beating the champion on minimal battles to one that can do it, albeit with a fair amount of luck. Still, I say, what better way to kick off the Halloween season than this one? And as our rival complains that he never made any mistakes raising his Pokemon, well, he made a mistake of picking up Eevee in the laboratory, obviously. His evolution never posed any issues for us whatsoever. It was always just the other Pokemon on the team. And Golbat is one of the only Pokemon that can force his Sandslash not to use its strongest moves all the time, which is also a pretty big improvement on a lot of other runs. And in the end, Golbat had all the moves that it needed to completely stunt on him with that overpowered Mega Drain and Leech Life. However, I think there's one last thing we need to do in this one. We need to see if we can manage to beat a Mewtwo at level level 70 with this Golbat. So let's get into this to finish off the episode. And honestly, I think Golbat was one of the Pokemon that was most improved in later generations. Of course, it gets the evolution Crobat, which who knows, we might do a backport run of that at some point here on the channel. It might have to wait for next year around this time though, because I have a few other runs that I really want to do. We have some ghosts that we need to look into, and I don't mean the Ghastly line. I mean some Pokemon that should have been ghost type in the original generation, at least if everybody's headcanon is correct. And I think there's no better Pokemon to test out as a ghost type than one of the Rivals team members, Cloyster. Everybody and their mom thought that that Pokemon should have been a ghost Pokemon because it looks like a Ghastly inside of a shell. In fact, that has always been my theory of what it actually is a Ghastly possessing a shell at the bottom of the ocean. Maybe it possessed a Shelder or something, but it's clearly a Ghastly. You can't convince me otherwise. I've also heard plenty of people telling me that Ninetales should be a ghost, and there was even a theory that I saw on a Reddit post that people thought that Electrode was a Pokeball that had been possessed by a ghost Pokemon. I'm not sure how legit that is, so tell me what you think in the comments. But hey, we're gonna test out some ghost Pokemon as they should have been in a later episode. But for now, it's time to take on this Mewtwo. Let's see how it goes. So against the level 70 Mewtwo, we're coming in with Leech Life. It goes Swift, and our Leech Life with a critical hit does over half. He goes Recover, but we're going to recover off of him as well. Still, we probably have to stop him from just going Recover every single turn, and if he goes Psychic, we're probably getting wrecked. So I think we have to go for the Confuse Ray here if we're going to actually get this one to go. He even Barriers here, which is just a brilliant strategy. Still, we're getting him to hit himself in Confusion, and finally, on low health, he goes Psychic and one-shots us. Okay, let's try this one again with the Confuse Ray, and then I think we've got it. Unfortunately, he Barriers at the very beginning this time, so we're going to need some critical hits as well here. We really like when he uses Swift because it does like basically nothing, but Barrier is just so OP against this strategy. No wonder they didn't buff Leech Life. It wouldn't have even mattered against Mewtwo. Still, if we can just get one critical hit, we actually managed to beat the Mewtwo on the second attempt. So there we go. That is it. Golbat, he is in the books. Poison Fang didn't really do anything for us in this one. I think I programmed Poison Fang to be at too high of a level. Yes, it was learned at level 49 in Gen 3, but I think we should have put that move quite a bit earlier for it to actually have had an impact. But hey, we ended up at least having that as an option, which is a massive improvement from normal. And man, Leech Life and Mega Drain put in serious work in this one. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you to the channel members for your continued support. Thanks to everybody who watches to the end of the video. We are getting prepared for some very big things in 2026. People have been asking me if I have a Gen 3 channel. You might want to keep your ears peeled for something about a Gen 3 channel. For now, go over to GSC Pokemon Challenges and see what he does for this season, but tell him that he's not RBY Pokemon Challenges. Anyway, that does it for this one. I will see you in the next one. Later.